Hi everyone. A couple of people are still joining, so we'll wait for them and we'll start a webinar in a few minutes. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Just a quick check. Am I audible to everyone? You can use the chat section to share a reply. All right, great. So, welcome again. And I am Aishwarya and I'm from the data science team at Analytics Vidhya, and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Analytics Vidhya is one of the largest community of data scientists in India and across the globe. And today's webinar is on problem solving using AI presented by the QuantumBlack team. QuantumBlack is an advanced analytics firm operating at the intersection of strategy, technology, and design to improve the performance outcomes of organization. QuantumBlack became a part of McKinsey and Company in 2015, and in this webinar, we have the QuantumBlack team here. So let me introduce you to the presenters for today. We have Rohit with us, who leads the QuantumBlack team in India. And before joining QuantumBlack, he was an expert with the McKinsey Risk Advances Analytics for 10 years. We also have Helen with us, who is again from QuantumBlack, and she leads the talent organization for QuantumBlack globally. She's passionate about diversity and regularly speaks and writes on gender diversity issues. Then we have Bhagya with us, who is a junior principal data engineer at QuantumBlack, and she has more than 14 years of experience in information technology in the field of data engineering and software design. So welcome you all. Before I hand over to the presenters, there are a few things that I would like to mention. First of all, this webinar is being recorded and it will be shared with you all within 2 to 3 days. Secondly, if you have any questions that you want to ask during the session, please post your questions in the Q&A section and we'll take up the questions at the end. Also, this webinar is live on Facebook, so if you prefer joining us there, you can connect there as well. So that will be all from my end. Thanks again, everyone. And without any further ado, handing over the stage to the presenters. So over to you guys.
Thanks, Vidhya. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Helen Mullings, and I am the head of people for QuantumBlack globally. And it's our pleasure this evening to introduce QuantumBlack to you, and in particular, our data engineering function, which we're going to be focusing on in the course of this webinar. So, who are QuantumBlack? Just scroll forward. Thank you, Vidhya. We are a data analytics company who use the latest machine learning and AI approaches to help our clients transform business performance using their data. 10 years ago, we were founded, as you may have guessed from the picture on the screen, by 3 individuals working in the Formula One industry, who back then even were using these advanced data techniques to drive performance in a world where small adjustments to a car or race tactics could be the difference between winning and losing. Our founders believed that these same approaches could be applied to business and founded QuantumBlack in order to pursue this vision. 3.5 years ago, we became part of McKinsey & Company, the global management consulting firm, which gives us access to an amazing client base and also enables us to combine the deep industry expertise in McKinsey with the leading edge technical skills we have in QuantumBlack to create impact for our clients. We work with clients who want to completely transform their business using data, and we try and take them on a journey which we hope will lead them to be fully independent, data-driven organizations. We work across industries, so we're not specific to one industry sector. And we work in industries as diverse as pharmaceuticals, to airline manufacturers, to even elite sports teams. Any organization that has data in any form and wants to use that to improve their performance. Our use cases, what we call the analytic problems that we solve for clients, are equally diverse, including things like fraud detection in credit card transactions, predicting injuries for the elite sports teams that I was referring to earlier, or maybe helping a bank assess their mortgage applications and predict the performance of different clients, as well as in the pharmaceuticals industry, improving the performance of clinical trials, by doing which we can get life-saving drugs to market faster. You can read more about our use cases on our website, but life is never boring at QuantumBlack for a technical professional. every month or every 2 to 3 months, you'll have a different problem to solve in a completely different industry. As well as the client work we do, we complement that with leading edge R&D, research and development, and technology development, all designed to make our client work more efficient and more impactful. So there's the opportunity to serve clients directly and the opportunity to do research work. As I'm sure you are all very aware, technology is everywhere. We are going through at the moment a digital equivalent of the Industrial Revolution, where jobs are moving from the sort of more traditional activities that our parents undertook to ones where having a technology background is becoming more and more important. We estimate that over the next 10 to 15 years, at least 30 to 50 million new jobs will be created globally with technology. And so technical skills are becoming more and more important. And one of the things we try to do here at QuantumBlack, as well as encouraging great people with technical skills to join our organization, is to encourage more people to undertake the study and build the skills they will need to become technologists in the future. So as well as to talking to people like yourselves who already have these very valuable skills, we also invest a lot of energy talking externally, even working in schools, helping train people to code, because we really want to help facilitate this technology-based revolution that industry is going through at the moment. In order to do the work that we do, a lot of different specialist skills are required. And we genuinely believe at QuantumBlack that it is important to have specialists with deep expertise, as opposed to one or two people that can do a range of tasks. That way, we can always be sure we will be bringing the best skills to our clients. So a typical QuantumBlack team will include a data engineer, and more on that in a minute, a data scientist or two or three, what we call a machine learning engineer, who are colleagues who bring a combination of data science skills, but also very strong software engineering skills. Design is also an important part of our value proposition to clients. We genuinely believe that designing our solutions in the best way is as important as the underlying technology that we build. And of course, we need software engineers at the end of the day to help us deliver solutions for clients, including front-end engineers and DevOps engineers. So that would be a very typical group of colleagues working together to deliver impact for our clients.
Right. Thanks, Helen. So yeah, as Helen explained, we work together, the data engineers, data scientists, machine learning engineers, all of us. So let's go a deep dive of what do we do in general, like as a data engineer, and how it actually is important for the client impact. So having said that, data engineering is a must-have skill set actually to drive competitive edge. And I believe you all are mostly either from data engineering background or the data science background, and you know why the data engineering is important. So also we do have specific skill set which is required for the data engineering, such as client-facing technical experts, eye for efficiencies. Why do we need these three skill sets for the data engineering? The reason being, we are the one normally who works with the clients together to understand their requirements, also understand the technical level, whether this is achievable or not, to the data scientists, where the data scientists are interested to see like what are the models I should develop and what are the kind of predictions I should do in order to achieve this, whereas the data engineers try to see the data, whether this is achievable or not, whether my client is ready to give me this data or not, and have an understanding and talk to the subject matter experts, and also understand the technicality of that, and get the data ingestion done, and then give it to the data scientist in such a way that's understandable and it's the features already. So I will take a little bit more later, like into I will give an example of what we have done for one of the study, and then we will explain to you later. Also, the I for efficiencies, why do we need that? Okay, we work with different kind of domains and different kind of industries, as Helen explained. Like, we work with banking, we work with telecom, we work with sales, so different kind of industries. So we do need kind of a little bit of domain knowledge. So if you have to understand the data, like, let me give an example. So if when you say revenue could be a little bit different in terms of like retail banking. When it comes to the wealth management, the term means a different. So you need to know the difference in order to understand what kind of data is really required for solving a particular use case. So that is the reason why these three core skills are quite important and play a wider role for a data engineer. So also we deal with a lot of data complexities, like for example, sorry, one second. Okay. So we do deal with a lot of complexity, such as like when the data engineer deals with the kind of outlook. Say, for example, the client came back and said, like, my data is lying in an outlook. How do I get the data out of the outlook? There are so many sensitives, right? Like, there are some PII data you need to consider, whether the data is containing a bit of complexity around the sensitivity, whether that is okay or not. You need to go through the InfoSec policies. So this is all done by the data engineers. So this is quite important to have this kind of a profile in a data science projects. So moving on. So having understand all of this, so there is a math which was actually done. Nowadays, you can see in most of the LinkedIn profiles and everywhere, 80% of the time we spent writing Python, PySpark, and SQL code to try to evaluate the graph databases and then give the data ingestion in place. The data engineers does this, and only 20% is what we spend developing the models. Having said that, it's not like it's not important, but it's just that this, if this 80% is right, then only you get the real value for the 20%. That is the reason. So for that, we as a data engineers, and we are in 10 years of analytics industry, we considered like these are the main important things the data engineer will do, and these are the data engineering responsibilities. That is having like subject matter expert, data owner interviews. We do interviews with lots of people, including CEOs, CTOs, also to the general analysts. So we are capable of actually talking to anyone of any level and understand their business perspective and as well as the technical perspective. Also understand the data landscape, like how do we join? How do we actually link the different data sets? What do we do? And then the profiling, like you have like around, if you don't profile the data, this is an advice for the whoever is there on the call. If you don't profile and start doing the ingestion, you later understood like, okay, this is not the data what I'm looking for. So you have to do all over again. So it's better to do the profiling in advance. That's one of the solution from our side to the data engineers over the call. Also, we do the data dictionaries, collect everything and in a very structured way. And we ingest the data. We clean the data, for not designed for analytics. We first clean the data and give that in such a way that is clean and it's very collaborative for developing the hypothesis. I will be going to give an example later, what is meant by a hypothesis and what is a feature. But this is what we do on our day-to-day job. Also, we build the data architecture and build the model and build end-to-end pipeline for the handover. So this is all the deep dive of the responsibilities as a day-to-day. So moving forward, okay, what excites us? What are the kind of technologies we are working now in QuantumBlack? All the latest technologies you can think of, like Python, PySpark, Spark, Amazon Web Services, Databricks, Java, and then we have Google Cloud, and we work with Azure. Okay, the pace is quite small, so we just kept little small ones. But yeah, we do have a lot of technologies which we work with. So our definitions works like this. As Helen mentioned, there is a data engineer and a data scientist, and a machine learning engineer. What do we do? So as a data engineer, I define data landscape mapping, construction of the pipelines, and feature engineering. Whereas data scientists took the features what we developed and do the feature engineering, model selection, and model performance. Whereas the machine learning engineer do the productionization, performance optimization, software engineer rigor. So it's like a loop. We do the features, give it to the data scientists, and the data scientists do the model and give it to the machine learning engineers, and the machine learning engineers productionize the code and give it back to the data engineering so that we make the pipeline. So as a whole team, we make the complete pipeline and deliver the data science project. So here I have two examples, just to give some few examples to you so that you can take away what are the kind of projects we work for. So I'm here talking about one industry as a predictive maintenance on mining trucks. I'm sure you would have seen the big mining trucks on the road. So we had this project 1 year ago where we have to go through the mining company where we need to reduce their time of how much they are spending on reducing the time on their equipment, how much time they are spending on their equipment. So we need to go through like 100,000 flat files. It's like a sensor data. So I'm sure people who have already worked on the data engineering knows how difficult it is to look at the sensor data, especially when you're talking about 100,000 files. So what we did was like we went through, we wrote a Python script which can actually read the files automatically, and then we did a parallel compute solution using Spark. So instead of taking days and months, it just took in hours to solve this, and we optimized the complete feature engineering and gave it to the data science with a lead time of 6 days. So that's what one of the use case is an example. So moving on to the pharma sales force effectiveness. So this is one of the I would say like a massive client where we actually made a lot of difference, and the whole industry has been like now into AI, and they started using the AI a lot, wherein we ingested like different data sets. I would say like 150 data sets I'm talking about here. Here we used database systems, also the flat files, also the live data lake, their data lakes. So we have to understand their existing pipeline and then make a reusable pipeline and gave it to them, the entire production pipeline. And now it's a live project wherein we are actually looking at how much actually the sales force, their sales are effective. Every day, what are they going to get? How much are they going to win in next month? So all this we have done using the data engineering plus the data science. I hope I'm doing okay on time.
Perfect.
Great. So the Salesforce effectiveness, I just wanted to give a bit of flavor, like how do we work? How do we divide the work? Like I have mentioned, like it's a live project and it's gone for an year. So what do? We first define what drives the sales effectiveness. We try to understand what's the use case is about. And then we define that into a particular areas. Like I'm looking at the plans and I'm looking at the features and I'm looking at the kind of priorities. So these are the 3 areas. So under these 3 areas, what are the hypotheses I'm talking about? What's the qualities I'm talking about? Like how much time my plan is taking in order to deliver it for this particular instance. Say that's one hypothesis. So for that hypothesis, then I will look at, okay, what kind of data I need in order to achieve this. So I need to understand what are the types of plans, what are the kind of features I'm looking at, how much time it took to deliver it. So I need to know the start time and the end time. What's the duration? So these are my features. So likewise, then I will map all my features into the columns, respective columns. Where am I getting this data from? Which database I need to look at? And who is the data owner for this? So this is all the data engineering work. This is how we divide the massive big chunk into a small parts and we deliver it. And we do maintain agile methodology, and we work together very closely with the data scientists, also with the CEOs, CTOs, and also with the client teams and the project managers. So that's how we deliver as a team, and the data engineering plays a vital role in QuantumBlack actually. So those are my examples. Having said that, I am done with the examples. So I'm giving to Helen.
Thank you. I wanted to just spend a few more minutes talking to you about the work we are doing in diversity in QuantumBlack and our focus on gender diversity in particular. And we are calling the initiative that we're running Women Transforming Tech, because we really do believe that the technology landscape will be improved and enhanced if we can achieve a better gender balance, both in the industry but also here within QuantumBlack. Currently in QuantumBlack, we have about 25% female colleagues, which is clearly not gender balanced, but we have committed to try to achieve gender balance. And we are taking a number of steps in the organization in different geographies to try and work on this. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the work we're doing today. The big problem we have with gender equality in technology is, in many countries, the education pipeline. And I wanted to really highlight here what a shining star India is when we look at this challenge more broadly. If I take the UK as an example, if you look at young children between the ages of 6 and 12, men and women show a roughly equal interest in technology. However, when you get to the teenage years, that interest from girls has dropped by half. And by the time we get to the university graduation stage, only roughly 1 in 6, or around 15% of all computer science graduates in the UK, and also in the enormous market that is the US, are women. And that percentage in many countries like the UK and the US is actually falling. In the US in the 1980s, it was 30%, and now it's around 15%. So there is a real challenge. However, India is doing a much, much better job, at least to the graduate stage. And amazingly, I think something like 45% of computer science graduates in India at the moment are women. So India represents potentially a fantastic female talent source for QuantumBlack. And therefore, it is one of the geographies where we are very focused and very keen to attract more brilliant women into our organizations, as well as men. This is about gender parity, not focusing on one gender more than the other, but just making sure that we are appealing to both genders and representing ourselves as a fantastic place to work for both genders. And I think, in India, as I mentioned before, the representation of women at both graduate level, but also in the overall workforce in technical roles, is much, much better. Something like 35%, if you look at sort of relatively junior roles. We're nowhere near that in QuantumBlack India. We're still, I think, hovering around the 20% level, so a lot more work for us to do to even reach the industry average. The thing I would say that is true of India, as well as most other countries in the world, is that as you get up the sort of levels of hierarchy, as women and men build their careers, the percentage of women does start to drop off. And although we're seeing decent representation at junior levels in India, that is true in India as well. When you get up to the more senior leadership roles, where arguably you can make the most difference, the number of women does drop off. So definitely something we need to work on there. And I mentioned before, we've started this initiative, which we've called Women Transforming Tech, but also with the hashtag QBalance. Those of you that took part in International Women's Day this year will know that their hashtag was Better Balance. So we shamelessly stole that from them. And we've been holding events in our offices around the world to basically bring female technologists together. Not to talk to them about women's issues, because that can get a bit boring, quite frankly, but to talk technology with them, to recognize that women in our industry want to talk about technology. And so we run our events to both connect and inspire women working in our industry, as well as to introduce QuantumBlack to them. And I hope that we'll be running one of our Women Transforming Tech events in India soon. And they get great feedback, as you'll see from some of the social media on this page that we got from our last event, where we had some amazing speakers. The other thing we're doing to try and signal to the world that QuantumBlack is a great place for women to work is we are entering a number of our women into industry competitions, and we've had great success. We've already had 3 winners this year in different industry competitions. These examples are from here in the UK, and I confidently expect more awards to come. Can't talk about all of them yet, they're not all public, but we're doing pretty well. And we're not doing this because we want to show off. We do want to show off the amazing women we have here. We are doing this to send a very clear signal that we are an organisation that wants to support and champion gender diversity. And this is just to give you an example of some of the fantastic women we've hired into QuantumBlack globally in the last year or so, many of whom are in our team in Gurgaon in India. We're incredibly proud of all of them, and they really do represent all disciplines in which we operate, from software engineering to data engineering to cloud architecture to data science. So it's amazing to have such great talent in our firm. So what are some of the things we're doing to help women develop their careers at QuantumBlack in pursuit of this kind of gender balance goal? So first and foremost, we're running events like the one I showed you, but we're also running hackathons and webinars, which are for men and women, of course, but hopefully enable us to send out a signal and connect with women technologists. Within the organization, we develop individual professional development programs to build leadership skills in both our men and our women, recognizing that each individual will have different needs in that respect. Our professional development at QuantumBlack is focused on 2 areas that are important to technologists. One is the leadership skills. We're part of McKinsey & Company, so we are incredibly lucky to have the resources at our fingertips that McKinsey brings in developing leaders. McKinsey have been at it for 90 years, so that gives us a huge advantage as a relatively young company. But also, we recognize that our people care deeply about keeping their technical skills leading edge. So all our technical professionals get to undertake at least 2 weeks, often more, of technical training a year, which might be classroom learning, or it might be going to a conference somewhere in the world to ensure that they really are absorbing the latest knowledge. We also believe that network is important. If you are in a minority, which women are in QuantumBlack at the moment, it's really important to feel like you've got a support network. So we have a very strong women's network in all our offices, and that group support other women around them to help build their careers with mentorship and sponsorship. And then, of course, it's really important as we think about the progression of women to make sure that all our evaluations and our promotion decisions are completely unbiased. And that's something we put a lot of effort into to make sure that men and women are evaluated in a fair way, given the right feedback, and promoted when they are ready. Becoming a parent historically has often been seen as a women's issue, but we increasingly see this as a challenge for both genders as parenting becomes more equal. And so we offer industry-leading maternity and paternity support to ensure that our parents can manage their careers as well as raise their families. And of course, we offer a huge amount of exciting opportunity to travel internationally. QuantumBlack is a global organization. I didn't mention it earlier, but we have something like 8 different locations in pretty much every continent around the world. So for a young person without family responsibilities, there is a huge and exciting opportunity to travel. But we also recognize that over time, people's circumstances change, and that we must play a role in helping them manage that and moderate their travel to meet the needs of their family over time. That is something that is critical if we want to retain parents of both genders, but I think is often seen as particularly important for women. We don't just want to hire women into QuantumBlack, we want to grow and develop them to senior levels. And in doing that, we are committed to meeting their needs, both professionally, but also taking into account their personal needs as their families grow. Now I'm going to hand over to Rohit, who's going to get a little bit more local and talk to you about QuantumBlack in India.
Great, thanks, Helen. Thanks, Bhagya.
Shall I stop the sharing, Rohit, so that you can share it? Or
Yes. Or maybe you can just move to the next page.
Sure.
I'll just stop sharing. I'll do it. That's okay.
Yeah, I think let's do that because I might have to run.
That's fine.
Okay, done.
Okay, so let's go more local and let's talk more about QuantumBlack India. QuantumBlack India, we started this team in January 2017. The objective of why we started the team is to build a global engineering hub because there's a strong engineering talent within India and serve our clients globally. So we started with a couple of data engineers, but since then we have moved to about 24 different team members and across different skill sets. So we have data engineers, we have cloud DevOps operational engineers, we have cloud info security engineers, and we're developing a lot around business intelligence, data visualizations, and Tableau. We are still growing, and a lot of this growth would come from our data engineering hiring. So we are looking for many much more engineering talents within India in order to grow this team. What does that mean to be a part of QB India? So definitely, as Helen mentioned, we have 8 different offices. We have many more McKinsey consulting offices. So you get a lot of chance to work on global projects as well as cutting edge big data technologies, as what Bhagya mentioned. But let's talk a bit more about the opportunities as well as probably one of your expectations that we have when you are part of data engineering in QB India. So first and foremost, it is more about a client-facing role. I have heard from most of the data engineers working on data migrations, not getting that opportunity to go and directly meet clients. The role is a bit different. Here you become a part of QuantumBlack consulting team and work directly with clients. So as Helen was mentioning, there could be a lot of global travels where the client is, and you will be meeting their technical teams, data owners, even business elements, and trying to understand their data and profiles their data and come and help our business experts and data scientists to come up with those insights through data sets. So that also leads to that also means it's a global exposure. with so many offices around different geographies, you get a chance to work with these global teams across different geographies. To give you an example, within the last 1 year, if you look at the geographies that the team members from QB India has served and traveled, it cut across UK, US, many part of Europe. We have worked in Singapore, we have worked in Thailand, China, Kazakhstan, and so on and so forth. So we have been within the last 1 year, we have almost served all part of the globe, traveling and solving the business problems for our client. What does that mean for our data engineers? Not only they are able to build the strong client exposure across the different geographies, we also help and encourage people to build the global network within McKinsey ecosystems. And a lot of our members have leveraged this ecosystems to find much more interesting client opportunities for themselves. So this global network is something which they can carry with anywhere within McKinsey, within QuantumBlack. The third and the most important thing that I wanted to highlight is how data engineers will be able to build strong domain and industry knowledge. In many of my discussions with different candidates around different meetings, specifically around data engineers, what I've heard specifically in India, you get a lot of chance to work on interesting technologies. But there is a strong gap where in terms of how much you're able to, how much experience you're getting directly to understand the domain and the industry knowledge. And a lot of those discussions goes on, and yes, we understand what we are delivering, but sometimes we do not know what's the actual impact of it directly onto the business use case. We know it's very important. We are managing the data lakes. We are managing such huge data sets which will be used by our data scientists, by our analytics teams in order to generate insights. But what the insight is what that impact is something not directly visible to us. The way we work is we will be directly working with our industry experts, our data scientists, in order to build that. We encourage people to build strong data model knowledge around the industries they're working at. So one of the important things that our data engineers do is what we call feature engineering, which actually means you're developing a variables that will be used for models. And in order to build those variables, you need to understand the business logic so that you can create those variables from the disparate data sources you would get from client, and connect those data sources in the business logic, and so that you can give the right variables to data scientists or build the right data lake for your data scientist overall. So that's basically one area which our data engineers get very excited about, getting those domain knowledge. However, what does that mean for us? Definitely our data engineers needs to have a strong technical knowledge, understandings of different tech stacks, and so on. But it also means that they have to take a very high individual ownership. Our teams could be small, and a lot of our data engineers will be leading those work streams, and needs to work directly with a lot of our team members. So they need to lead and take a lot of individual ownership in order to deliver the quality outputs that can be then used for analytics overall. It also means you get a lot of opportunity to influence a lot of decisions, right? So if you have large data sets, and you are an expert on data sets, you would know what technology would work better, what programming language would work better, how I can get it to productionization. So you get a chance to influence a lot of that decision while working with a lot of tech delivery teams and so on. So you can bring all of your technical expertise into the discussions and create that impact overall, which at least when I talk to my data engineers, it brings it's very exciting to them to be at the start and help take that decisions overall. Right. So these are some of the benefits that you get being part of QuantumBlack India data engineering team overall. So we are still growing. We are very excited about our journey, and I'm looking for many of you to come and join us in this journey overall. So this is more about QuantumBlack India. Before I close and we go to questions, as you all know, we are running the data engineering hackathon, which would be live from 5th of July to 14th of July. If you've not registered, we'll definitely encourage you to go and register for hackathon. It gives you it gives us an opportunity to know you more, know your technical skills more. It is run through Analytics Vidhya, so you can go and register on Analytics Vidhya websites to do that. Right. Thanks so much, and we'll be more than happy to take questions now.
I think there are a bit of questions here. There are two questions. One question is around whether QuantumBlack has worked with finance industry. Yes, we do work with banks and finance industry as well.
Yes, we do. We work with banks in almost all the geographies in which we operate, and we are also now increasingly working with insurance companies. Most of the work we've done to date has been with retail banks, but we have also now started to do some work with commercial and wholesale banks as well. It's not our biggest sector. I would say it's probably around 20%. Our biggest sector at the moment is healthcare and pharmaceuticals, but it's definitely a growing sector for us.
And there is another question from Suhasini. What level of overall IT and data science experience you are looking for? So Helen, probably.
I mean, obviously you two should both add, but we are generally looking for people who often have at least a master's level qualification, not exclusively. We will look at people that have just done their bachelor's, but I think it's fair to say that many of our hires do have their master's as well. If we do take someone at a slightly earlier stage of their education, maybe after their bachelor's, we might help them at some point take on some further study and complete their master's, just to, raise their technical skills to a new level. On data science in particular, less so with data engineering, which tends to be a more practical and applied skill. But for the data scientists, I would say roughly half the people we hire have PhDs. So it's quite often that they will have undertaken a PhD and also perhaps some postdoctoral research. As I said, we do have some data engineers with PhDs, but I think in that industry in general, it's less common, and people will often have just a bachelor's or, as I said before, a master's.
Yes, and on the data engineering part specifically, we do look for an experience working on the different technologies overall. So more than pure, so definitely bachelor's is important, but other than that, what we look for is how much you have experience working on those technologies and how much you understand handling the data set is more important.
Yeah, absolutely. Practical experience matters as much as what degree you have, for sure.
Maybe I can add one more thing, like the people who ever have a lot of BI experience and then converted into a data science experience as well, they are also welcome. If they definitely know strong skill in Python, Spark and all, yes, that is possible as well. So it's not like doors closed only when you are only done the data science course. It's not like that. So yeah.
Great. There's one more question around the diversity. Probably Helen, I want to take if it helps. So there is So that question says, even when India has roughly an equal number of women in the field of university level, most of them do not go ahead with technical roles and prefer management studies. So how do we propose to motivate more of these women to go into that field? And what steps do we take?
I mean, I think it comes down to many of the same things that we're battling with in geographies where women aren't even completing their studies, and that is to massively improve the perception of technology work, how interesting and exciting it is, improve the environment of technology companies to make them more female friendly.
Yeah.
And then I think finally also talk to women about this kind of technology revolution that I mentioned before, and how if in 10 years' time they don't start to kind of embrace this industry and use the skills that they've learned at university, they're going to have a problem. Many jobs will be disappearing or shifting or changing. And I think what we're already seeing in many countries, and I would assume India is the same, is that salary levels for technology-related jobs are considerably higher. And here in the UK, at least, we talk a lot about what we call the gender pay gap, the difference between what men earn and what women earn. And there is no doubt that women's reluctance to embrace technology careers is widening this gender pay gap. So we really need to encourage women to believe that it is in their interests to pursue these incredibly exciting careers in technology, but we also need to make our organizations as female friendly as possible in the ways I was describing earlier.
Great. So there's another question, what are some of the problems you solve through AI, and what are your thoughts on machine learning versus deep learning? So potentially I will not go into the details of thoughts around machine learning and deep learning in this webinar, but what I will encourage people, so we do, as we mentioned early in the webinar, we solve a multitude of AI problems across different industries. If you go through our website and if you look, there's a lot of business use cases that has been defined and how we have solved and an impact that is created. So I'll definitely encourage people to go and see those. There are use cases across industries that we mentioned there on the website.
I would stress that, I think one of the defining features of QuantumBlack is that we believe that there is huge potential for machine learning to help industry today. There are a lot of companies out there that are focused on what machine learning can do in 10 years' time or 20 years' time. We believe the practical application for machine learning is already there in business today. It can have huge impact. So we're very focused on practical impact in the here and now. The other thing I would say is that it's not all about use cases. As I said before, we are endeavoring to take our clients on a journey to independence. So we hold their hand, we do one use case with them, we might do 2 use cases with them, but all the time we're helping them build capabilities internally as well. So for us, the actual objective is an analytics transformation, not just delivering a use case. So can't stress enough, yes, this is about technology, but it's also about people.
What are your growth plans for QB in terms of employee strength?
Oh, well, we haven't put a ceiling on it. We've grown from 30 to over 300 in 3 years, which has been quite terrifying. McKinsey & Company is obviously a huge organization that we are part of with tens of thousands of employees. It's really hard to say because obviously we work very closely with McKinsey. So I wouldn't be surprised if QuantumBlack isn't 500 people in
end of this year, maybe
2-3 years time. But we actually haven't put, we haven't put a ceiling on it. We're trying to grow at a sensible rate. A lot of startups grow exponentially, and in doing so, I think they don't offer a great value proposition to their employees. For example, there aren't enough experienced people around to train or apprentice the new colleagues coming in. We want to make sure that we deliver for everyone we hire. So we are trying to grow at a rate which is sensible and enables us to deliver a good colleague experience for everybody that joins us. There is massive demand for the work that we do, so it would be very easy to, accelerate growth, but we're trying to get the balance right between the demand and making sure that we, continue to make QuantumBlack a great place to work and to learn, particularly for more junior colleagues.
Great.
We'll take one question, Bhagya, before you go. So I think it looks more data engineering question. We say, do you expect us to have experience in these databases? I'm assuming it's more the question around different databases, technologies, and other stuff that we work on overall.
Okay, so around the databases and also depends on the level, it changes a bit. Like, for example, we start with a fellow and then we go to a data engineer, senior data engineer, and junior principal data engineer. So when it starts with a fellow, we expect them to be a bit more like knows about the technology, like they know they can hands-on and do Python and Spark. They should know the concepts and very good at databases. This is what the expectation is. When it goes to a consultant level, which is a data engineer, they should be independently able to code with all these technologies, at least one of the cloud technology and one of the database, and mostly looking at the Python as a core skill for now, because for the data ingestion, and adding to that, if we have other skills, that would be a plus, but these are the main necessary skills what we look for. And also adding to that, we do require a bit of consulting skill as we work with the clients a lot. So that's what we look for as a starting level. Then it goes to the senior level, it changes a lot. Like when we look at the junior principal and principal level, then we look at different domain expertise in addition to the technologies, and also work with a lot of other clients as well. So it depends on the level, it changes a lot. Hope it answered the question.
And just to continue on this, there is a similar question as what do you generally look in for our data engineers, by Kumar Varun. So just to take that forward, as Bhagya mentioned, there are multiple levels from fellow to consultant to senior consultant, junior principal, and so on. So we look at the different skill sets, right? At the junior levels, we definitely trying to look for strong skill sets around one or two technologies, like Python very well, you have strong knowledge on specifically SQL and databases, and ability to understand the data, right? You're able to understand the data profiling rather than just being able to take the data set and ingest and so on. So some bit of analytics that you understand overall. At the senior level, definitely more around domains, more around the stronger programming skill sets, more around where you can guide teams on those skill sets is something which we definitely look for.
Okay, great. And Shrel, there is a question around, can you tell something about the Kedro library, which you have just open sourced, and the problems you solve using it? Thank you so much for raising this question, because we are very excited for our open source tool, the product Kedro. So this is like a knowledge repository, what we made out of our own experience from last 10 years. So this is like a data analytics framework. You can take this framework and start using that framework straight away into your project, wherein you get very useful Python libraries which are included, and you get to actually collaborate well using this Kedro. The reason being, there is this layers of raw, stage, intermediate, and as well as the primary. And then obviously if you go into the Kedro, you get to know more. There is a lot of help online is also available. So I would strongly recommend join our Git help as well, and then do use it and let us know your feedback. We look forward to it.
Yes.
Once again, thank you for raising it.
And just to mention, we may be doing a meetup in India for around Kedro, so we'll keep you posted. You join our meetup group, which is, and we'll definitely keep you posted in terms of when we're discussing that.
would you like to hire a data scientist who wants to work from home?
So we do have a few colleagues that work remotely in QuantumBlack. Most of them are software engineers, so they are working on projects where there tend to be, longer timelines, and therefore it's slightly easier to accommodate colleagues working remotely. To be honest, most of our client projects where we are working in general to very tight deadlines, and the teams do really benefit from being co-located, because Vidhya as a data engineer can sit next to the data scientist, and they can kind of interact with each other on the feature engineering, for example, in a way they need to. And so we don't have at the moment remote working data scientists. What we do, however, is often work remotely from our clients. So we don't always sit in our client's office, particularly to do our data science work. Our QuantumBlack offices around the world are very well equipped to enable data scientists and data engineers to do their work well. They have access to great equipment. They have access to their colleagues who they can bounce ideas off. And we really think that the best work often gets done when colleagues are working in one of those bespoke offices. Which hopefully are relatively close to where people live, and so they're able to get home to their families at night as well. Would I shut the door completely on a data scientist working remotely? Probably not. As collaboration technology improves year after year after year, I'm sure, in the fullness of time, it's something we would consider. But at the moment, the only discipline where people do work remotely, completely remotely from home, is software engineering.
Cool. Yeah. This one. Okay. What languages are most desired for data science skills out of the 6 to 7 languages listed by you? Could you help suggest the data science languages to prioritize? Okay. I think it's more to do with the data scientists.
I mean, I can take that. So one important thing that we look within our data scientist is also a good coding skill sets overall, right? Because a lot of our work that we do ultimately needs to go to productionization overall. So the model needs to go and needs to be in our productions, in clients' production systems overall. So now we are in generally technology agnostics firm overall, because we will use technology as what is needed. What we have seen, at least some of the languages like Python is definitely very helpful when it needs to go into production. A lot of our data scientists also use R as a specific language to code, because that's one of the languages being done a lot within, at least in India, a lot within universities overall. But all of that, definitely your core data science skill sets plus the coding skill set is very helpful to be very successful in data science.
Yeah, and I think just for echoing what Rohit said, if we were to point to one language to prioritize, it would be Python.
Yeah.
I think we've shifted to a world here in QuantumBlack where the vast majority of our work is now done in Python. We do have data scientists whose first coding language is R, but almost everyone now can code efficiently in Python. Yeah, that's right. Do you generally look for in a data engineer?
I think that was
we've done that one.
Yeah, we discussed that.
That one. Let's go down.
I think there's one question with Vanita. Does experience in IT is must? I am teaching field and pursuing PhD overall. So from a data engineering perspective, it's not necessary that you've been into an IT industry overall. What we look for is the technical skill sets around databases and so on, which you could bring and deliver. So it's not necessarily has to be that you are on these big IT industries. If you are part of a product companies and have worked a lot with these technologies. I think that's also helpful. Even I see you are on the teaching field and you're pursuing PhD. So during your teaching field, if you have been working on any of your projects which is more related to these technologies, it's very helpful for us.
I saw a question about, is a PhD required for data science? Simple question there is no, but for our data science field, not for our data engineering, but for data science, we do generally look for a minimum of master's level qualification. I would say it's roughly 50-50 between master's and PhD for data science.
Cool. What experience do you require for a data science intern?
Same. I mean, to either be partway through your PhD or partway through your master's. So we take interns and they will either come from master's programs or PhD programs. Pretty much the same with data engineering, I think, for our interns there as well.
That's
yep,
right.
Yep.
What are the... Are you planning on expanding in India in different cities?
Ooh.
Yeah, so we haven't yet thought through about expanding into different cities. We are based out of Gurgaon, as we're based out of the big McKinsey office, which is there. So we'll with a lot of data scientists also sitting from McKinsey, so we can leverage a lot of those capabilities here and can co-locate. So right now, we haven't yet thought through about the other locations yet.
No, I mean, in other countries, so if we take the US as an example, we started in Boston, and after about a year, we then moved to open an office in Chicago. What we tend to do is follow McKinsey's footprint. So it's relatively easy for us to open new offices when we feel it's the right time to do so, because obviously McKinsey has offices in most of the major cities around the world, and certainly in more than one city in India. So no plans to expand yet, but I'm sure as our client service grows in India, at some point we will look at it, but not in the next year or two.
Thank you all for the opportunity. I need to leave, but Helen and Rohit is with you for the remaining questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Vidhya. Okay. So is there any job or internship opportunities for freshers? So that's something which we are looking in India. We are defining how that internship would look like overall from a data engineering perspective. We want when people comes to us, they would have good life projects to work on or good problem to solve on. So that's something which we are working on, which may eventually start sometime soon.
And I see this question about data science with biological data. Certainly here in London, we have data scientists with this background. As I mentioned before, quite a lot of our work is in healthcare. And so we do actually have a fair few data scientists who come to QuantumBlack with a bioinformatics background. It's one of the profiles we definitely do see here. Yes.
I can take a question on hackathon. So how do we prepare for QuantumBlack's hackathon overall, which is going to be launched start on 5th? I think what you need to bring into the hackathon is your coding skill sets. We will soon be releasing the problem statement, but the hackathon would be more around how you can deal with multiple data sources, how you can connect these multiple data sources and be able to think through around the features that needs to be developed and that can be used for data scientists. So a lot would come on your understanding of the data sets and your existing data engineering skill sets and the coding skill sets. Coding skill set is very important for us, and that's something which we will evaluate a lot. So that's how do you write your codes and so on will be very helpful. to evaluate during an hackathon.
I saw a question on equal pay. Are men and women paid equally in QuantumBlack for the same technical role? And I can say absolutely, unquestionably, yes. If you are doing the same job in QuantumBlack as a colleague in the same role at the same level, your pay will only be impacted by perhaps your tenure in the role or your performance in role. It most definitely will not be impacted by your gender. So the answer to that one is yes. There's also a question here about, do we work in the manufacturing industry? We absolutely do. We've done some fascinating projects in manufacturing. So for example, lately we've been working in drug manufacture, trying to reduce the amount of anomalies in the manufacturing process, because if drugs aren't manufactured perfectly, then the whole plant has to get shut down. It's an incredibly time-consuming and difficult process. And so we've been working lately with drug manufacturers to try and reduce the kind of anomaly rate, and therefore reduce the downtime of plants. Another thing we do in manufacturing a lot is predictive maintenance, trying to figure out when critical pieces of manufacturing equipment break down, and to prevent that by predicting when those shutdowns might happen, and ensuring that maintenance is given preemptively to prevent shutdowns. So we do a lot of work there. And then finally, we do quite a lot of work around optimizing the production of a chemical plant or something along those lines. I would say from a data science perspective, it's a reasonably mature field. It's certainly an area we've been working in quite a while now, as well as McKinsey more broadly. So yeah, I think there's still plenty of scope. A lot of industrial companies have only just started on their analytics journeys, so many clients out there still to work with, but actually quite a few use cases that we've worked on multiple times now in this field. I don't know if you've got anything to add.
No, I haven't done. So I'm going to take another question, because this is related to a data engineering role, where they're saying, is only about, sorry, where that question, is it main goal is accuracy or something else? So the data engineering role is much broader when it comes to when it comes to QuantumBlack overall. It is basically to help our data scientists and experts enable to analytics. So the way that role gets evolved is, initially you work a lot with clients in order to understand their data sources, gathering those data sources, and so on. Do initial ETL stuff in order to clean their data sets and make it ready overall. But then you go through an entire process of making it ready for modeling. What we mean by that is you will be doing a whole feature engineering part of it. So you will be trying to understand an hypothesis from data science, from a business expert, and see what features or variables would be helpful to solve that hypothesis. And then look in your data sets, try to understand, if I have 5 different data sets, how can I connect those data sets in order to able to create that variable, which can then be helpful from a data science perspective overall, right? So it involves multiple skill sets. Skill sets to talk to clients. So we're basically bringing your consulting skill sets and getting data sets, talking to data owners, understanding the data sets, your all ETL experiences in order to clean and make it ready initially, and then bringing in some of the business logics with your strong technical experiences in order to connect those data sources to make it ready for modeling overall.
There's a question here about industries that are particularly interesting to QuantumBlack. As I think I said before, we are industry agnostic. We do work across industries. I think our main industries at the moment are the manufacturing industries that I talked about before, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, financial services, and also what we describe as sort of oil and gas and basic materials. So oil and gas, mining, things like that. And then finally, what we classify as advanced industries. So things like tech, software development, for example, and telecommunications. That will be another area that we focus on. So it's incredibly broad. And as I think I mentioned before, we even do work for sports teams from time to time. So there really is, and have one ongoing at the moment here in London. So there really is a huge diversity, and there isn't one industry that dominates. As I said, around 30% of our work in pharma, but everything else is very spread. This question about location. We are first and foremost running the hackathon on this webinar to encourage applications to our Gurgaon location and in data engineering in particular. So that is the main focus. However, we are global. We have locations all over the world. And here in the UK, we've had several colleagues join us as direct applications from India. And we're more than happy to consider applications from that geography. We're also in the process of starting up an office in Singapore. So as long as the individual is able to emigrate or obtain working rights for a particular geography, we're very open to receiving applications for locations outside India. Our only India location at the moment is Gurgaon.
Okay. There's one question about how much role does statistical knowledge play a role for the data engineers. So we do not expect our data engineers to have statistical understanding. Basic data profiling understanding is helpful and is required. So understanding basic statistics like mean, median, mode, and able to find averages and so on, and able to see whether when you do a descriptive cuts of the data sets, are they making sense or not, I think is very important for us. So the data profiling part is superbly helpful. It doesn't require you to have any strong statistical knowledge and beyond that overall. However, we do encourage once our data engineer joins to start taking some of these knowledge, because that helps them in great interactions with data science teams overall. But we do not even at the start look for that skill set.
There's a question here about, does industry experience matter for either data scientists or indeed data engineers? I think we do hire people direct from university. We do. I think for data engineering, we often are looking for some practical experience as well. For data science, particularly for PhD hires where people have already spent, years and years and years studying, we absolutely do hire directly from academia. And industry experience isn't always required. At the end of the day, it's a balance. I saw a couple of questions about what platform we work on or what technology whether we use our own technology or client technology. We have deliberately remained platform agnostic. We're not a platform provider, and we don't want to restrict our clients to working on one platform or another. So we are more than happy to work on the client's preferred platform, and our colleagues are capable of working on a variety of infrastructure. We do bring technology like Kedro with us and other products as well, which help us do our work better. And we will often install those on the client's IT platform and leave them behind afterwards, which is why we open sourced Kedro to enable our clients to continue to use it in the longer term. But, we don't provide a platform. We provide specific technology assets to enable analytics work that our clients can use after we've left, but we're not platform providers.
Okay. There's one question, do you hire women laterally at senior position? If yes, what skill set do you look for senior data engineers or senior data science specifically? So yes, we do hire women's or men's laterally at senior positions overall. There are the skills, and we look for similar skill sets across different genders. From a data engineering perspective, when you look for senior data engineers, we look for people who have strong coding skill sets, who have worked on projects using big data technologies and understands a lot around data sets and can be more independent in delivering on projects overall. So that's what we look from a senior data engineering position overall. There's also senior data scientist, specifically, if Helen, you want to talk about the same question.
Absolutely. So, I mean, same applies. We actually hire at all levels in QuantumBlack. As I said, we're a very new organization. We've gone from 30 to 300 in 3 years. So you can imagine that we do have to hire people at more senior levels as well. And we are actually particularly keen to hire women at those more senior levels to try and create gender balance. So very interested in hearing from men and women who are slightly more advanced in their careers and want to join at those most senior levels. And again, we are looking for, deeper expertise as well as some evidence of having developed leadership skills in a different context when we're looking for those more senior hires.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question here about data visualization. We do hire colleagues with data visualization skills, and we do have a small team in Gurgaon that works largely in Tableau on data visualization. It's not a role that we are absolutely seeking to hire at the moment, but we would be, interested to hear from colleagues who have very well developed skills in, for example, Tableau, and interested in building those further.
And the other skill set that I'll mention on visualization that is becoming more important for us is around Power BI, as we work a lot around the Microsoft Azure platform. So those are the two different skill sets we definitely look for overall.
I think there's interest in understanding how the hackathon's going to work, Rohit, in terms of then applying to QuantumBlack. How do the two kind of fit together?
Yes. So so the way we are looking for in a hackathon. So once you've completed the hackathon, we would understand who is at the top leader positions within an hackathon. And B, we will also be looking at the code submissions that happen. So what's how the coding skill sets would look like. Depending on how many candidates we have, we may need to prioritize based on your submissions, based on how the leaderboards are, and so on. And target more people initially at the higher end of the leaderboard. However, what we're trying to do is we will get informations for all of the people who have been part of hackathon, and eventually we would be going through everyone's informations and so on, and we'll see based on our recruitment process who fits onto it, and our recruiters would get in touch with people. So even if you're not on the leaderboards, if you have a good coding skill sets and if you do it, that's important for us overall to look forward.
Great. There's a couple of questions here about the importance of domain or industry knowledge. We don't require domain or industry knowledge if you happen to have it because you've applied your technical skills in one industry. That's great, but actually it's not a requirement here at QuantumBlack. We're very lucky because we're part of McKinsey & Company. McKinsey in general tend to bring the industry expertise to our projects. QuantumBlack bring the technical skills. Now, of course, many of our colleagues build industry expertise over time. So Vidhya, who's left us now, for example, has worked in banking several times, so has pretty good banking knowledge, but it is absolutely not a requirement to be hired at QuantumBlack. You know, we are looking first and foremost for people that combine good technical skills with the sort of skill sets that will make them a good consultant.
Great. There's one question around what are the best ways for candidates to apply to QuantumBlack to maximize their chances, and what are the ways of applying outside the hackathon, or do you rely first on hackathon only? So the answer is no, we do not only rely on hackathon. We are doing this exercise to understand the lot of data engineering profiles out there so that we can reach out to them overall, but there are various ways to apply. You can directly go onto the QuantumBlack website. There's a whole job descriptions, and there is where you can apply. You can reach out to us through LinkedIn profiles overall, and so on. So there are multiple ways you can reach out to us to apply for QuantumBlack.
Somebody's here asking about product management opportunities. We do have a part of QuantumBlack that works to develop technology, to develop products. It's based here in London for the most part. And so most of our product managers are based here in London. That said, if someone has a great product management skill set and wants to apply, as I said before, we'd be more than happy to look at a profile, but it would require relocation because most of that type of work goes on here in London.